All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. We are super excited about we have some beautiful guests with us tonight. So thank you so much for joining us. And welcome to Ep.4 that's the one. And we have middle and next we have the goal right corner. So welcome to me. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay. Did you say me?
Okay.
Not really. It's a little hard.
Oh, good. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay now?
Mm-mm.
It's the same.
Yeah, when you were close to the mic, I think it was really good. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so sorry about that. But I think for episode 4, that's the last one, on submissiveness. So that's a lot of these feelings on the top. So, kind of build women. So we can all live that and talk about this topic that seems to be, I don't know, I guess a little controversial at times. We disagree on what is one particular how to apply it. So let's get to it. So the actual definition for submissive is to be submissive is to obey or to someone else. When you are submissive, you submit to someone else's will, which literally means that you would put your own desires over someone. And so I think naturally with some people do that and be like, I'm not doing it. And so we want to kind of get into this conversation with U.S. perspective as we talk about some of the commercial questions we have from so I have a list of questions previous groups to show the questions some applicants show. Okay, so get your question ready and put it in the chat. Okay, so the first question is, why is the word submissive has such a negative connotation attached to it? So I'm going to go ahead and let Queen take that question first. I'm looking at you. Why don't you put that question first? It's like it's a bad word. So why?
Yeah. So I would love to dive in, and thank you so much, V. First of all, I'm so happy to be here. Thank y'all so much for having me. Okay, so let's jump in, because to know me is to know I'm a diver. Let's get in it. Here it is. So I think that submission may get a bad name just because of how other people have made it seem. Back when my grandmother was popping out kids, she had 12 of them, by one man. And I am quite sure she wasn't out here like, I ain't doing that. Yeah, ma'am, you had 12 kids. You was doing something where you had to submit and get under. But I don't know how submission could get a bad name when we submit our test papers all the time, when we submit audition tapes. How does it get this horrible, bad rap? I don't quite understand it, but I do understand it because of the way that ladies have become such independent, powerful, beautiful magic sources. So when we start making more money than the men, and when we began to have our own movement and our own stuff, that we didn't have to hang on to a man for, it was like, well, why do I have to get up under you? You don't make as much money as me. You ain't doing what I'm doing in the community. You ain't doing what I'm half of what I'm doing. So why do I have to submit to you? But I know there's going to be other questions of what else I'm going to say. So I hold it, but I do think that it gets a bad name because of the advancements that have happened with beautifully independent women.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I would like to jump in that a little bit too. I agree. I agree with everything that Queen said. I think we also have to look at the history behind, us as a people. We probably were working together powerfully and beautifully and of course, but as we were oppressed, we were separated. The male and the female were separated. So then it became like, oh, well, the woman has to take care of the home and then the man has to figure it out. Same thing like with welfare and everything like that. The fact that it wasn't supportive of men, it was more a supportive of women and children. So women had to become strong because they had to tap more into their masculine power so they can take care of their families. But as a result of that, women have been conditioned to feel like, they don't need men, which is not true. We need each other. So it's like, we got to take a look at, let's take a step back and then back some more, because was that really what we wanted? Were we really looking at submission as it was a bad thing, or were we programmed to believe that it was?
Yeah. I also just want to piggyback off of what Shoni just said, because going back generations and generations is so important when you pay attention to this word, because it's not a word that just women battle. It's also a word that men battle. And I know that's probably a further down the line question, but to submit, your first instinct of that word is to bow down or to give in. And you kind of feel like I'm being robbed of something my strength deserves. And so when you say, are you going to submit to me, or you need to submit to me, you're like, wait a minute, I'm not bowing down to no one. I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that because I've worked this, I've done this. And it's such a generational fight that our ancestors had, getting out of slavery to come from a place to where they had to constantly bow down to someone that is higher to them. And they're constantly trying to get out. We are, as people, constantly trying to get out of that mentality. But we're in the fight to get out of that mentality that our ancestors have. We're missing the beauty of it, of what it needs to penetrate us in our role as women and in our role as men. And so it's kind of like we're such in a fight to not take on the negative side of it, but there's so much beauty of it as well that we're totally missing, because we're thinking that, no, I'm not bowing down, I'm not doing this, I'm that, I work, I do this, I don't have to listen to you. But it's totally not about that at all.
That's good. Miss Kelly, yes, Pravada, let's hear what you have to do.
Yeah, so to answer that question, why does it get such a negative connotation? My thoughts around that, it just kind of go to, before this call, I kind of researched the meaning a little deeper. And one of the definitions was meekly obedient or passive. And then I said, well, what does obedient mean? And it says willing to comply with orders and requests. I'm like, orders. Okay, so that means I'm complying with someone else's orders. And it said synonyms were like docile and dutiful and meekly obedient. I said, well, what does meek mean? Quiet, gentle, easily imposed on like a mouse, docile. I said, well, I'm none of those things. So I'm not quiet, I'm not dutiful, not docile. So I think that's why it may get a negative connotation. And so I said, well, if I'm none of those things, does that mean that my chances for a successful relationship are slim if I'm not submissive? If I'm none of those things, how does that work for me? And so I'm sure we'll explore that a little bit more as we continue to talk.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I think all of you to this well seem to be about the description of the word, and then also happens. how that feels, and thought to put into this survival mode or mindset that I can work hard on, I wake up to my masculine sometimes so that I can sometimes have take care of business, or I'm forced to a role that was necessary my role. I come upon the switch from there. So John was talking about history. When the newspaper just spoke about how they just put women into the position where you had to become the provider, right? Basically taking on the man's role, which they do to provide. And so when you are into that role, you get used to surviving and not thriving. It's difficult to say, okay, now you go back, now you can take on, a woman's role and, take a back seat and be a woman. And I think that some of that kind of analysis that's why there are some that are comfortable with it because they were taught, no, I'm strong and the woman that no one's controlling me because I'm putting there, everything. So why would I? And that's the thing a man that needs one, So there's some unlearned that's done, as well. So throw that out there. So the next question is, do Black women submit? It's a panel of ladies, and we had a panel of men. A different situation. I would like to ask the question: do Black women submit?
I can take that one. And V, I just want to let you know the audience said they were having a hard time hearing you.
Okay.
Just let you know.
Okay.
It's a little hard to hear.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Okay. Well, we can talk while she's working on that. But in reference to do Black women submit, I would say yes. I would say yes. It's very possible for a Black woman to submit. It's even more possible for a healed Black woman to submit, because a lot of our sisters are still broken. They are still that little girl on the inside that someone did something to, or someone said something to, or mom made me feel this way, or daddy made me feel this way. So whenever I meet somebody who triggers that little girl, it's like, what you do? You know what I mean? And it's like, wait a minute, sis, like, breathe. So my answer is yes, but it's important for us as women to do the work on ourselves so that we can be, the mothers and the healers and that we're supposed to be for our culture. You know what I mean? But first you have to put that mirror on yourself and be like, okay, what's going on with me? Why am I so triggered by the slightest things? Why do I feel like I have to always be in control? I can speak for myself and be fully vulnerable and say that was something that I had to overcome. I had a single mother, so it was like, don't depend on no man for nothing. Figure it out on yourself. If you gotta work 3 jobs, figure it out. Do what you gotta do. But that's not really how I want to live my life. So
Right.
I had to think about that. Okay, well, how would a man feel if he comes into my world? Will he feel like he has a place? If I'm handling everything, if I'm doing everything, if I'm like, the strong Black woman, which I really don't like. If I'm a strong Black woman, like, why does he need me? Or why do I need him? And that was something I had to handle on my own and realize where it was coming from, and relearn how to be a woman, and how to be I would say a divine woman at that. So my answer is yes, and I think yes, if she is a healed woman.
I love that. I love the point that you just made, because that actually goes very deep. And so I like the asterisk that you put beside that. So absolutely, we're not a monolith. So yes, there are those that are fine with submission. And so we're not all the same. We're not uniform. And the thing about healing is, I'm a spiritual intuitive, and so I do study energy work. I have done a lot of work on myself, and I encourage clients to get a lot of work done on themselves as well. And by doing the work, I mean looking deep at, your shadow, your triggers, just like you said. And so I think what I know is that we all have masculine and feminine energy. Everyone, regardless of gender, has masculine and feminine energy. And so what happens, because of trauma, we tend to go to the more toxic side. And so some trauma could be, having to be a single mother. That could be a trauma event and cause us to operate more in our masculine. And when it becomes toxic, that's when we want to conquer and control. And so men can operate in toxic masculinity, and so can women. And then the opposite of that is toxic femininity. And that is where you just have you don't set any boundaries. You don't have any boundaries. You're totally relying on somebody else. And that actually can become very toxic. So when we talk about submission, it really needs to be a balance. In all things, there must be balance. And so I think you can't really operate in one or the other, especially if you're not being your authentic self. And so when we think about masculinity, femininity, we all have both. And balance really is the key. And so not only balance within yourself, but then also balance between you and your partner and your relationship and how that dynamic looks. And so really a submissive relationship, you're really just talking about the power dynamic in that. And so, we can touch on that a little bit more. But yes, the short answer, yeah, is just like you, yes. Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good. Can you guys hear me a little better now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So I want to say a resounding yes, Black women do submit. And I hate that it has to be a Black women thing, like we're just so cantankerous when we have seen many videos, child, of the other side. Mm-hmm. However, let me just put this point out there. Submission is not automatic, okay? I say that thing again. Submission is not automatic, okay? Because authority that she can respect, speaking of a Black woman just like me, is how she is going to get under. If you are an authoritarian figure and, she like, child, I ain't listening to you, you won't get submission from her. Mm-hmm. But if you pull her queendom forward, whatever you say, however you would like, whatever you like. What they say on Coming to America, bark like a dog, big dog, whatever you like, because you pulled my queendom forth. You made me see me. You made me feel exalted. You put me on some type of pedestal. I need to make sure that you feel your kingdom come forth, sir, whoever you are. So submission does not just happen simply because you are a person of the opposite sex. I don't just submit to you because you're a man. What kind of man are you? Wakanda man are you, if you will? But but can I feel? Can I feel the tug of excellence come from you? Can I glean from you? Can I be led by you? Do I trust you enough with my life and my heart and my being and my hands and my soul and my vision and my dreams? Are you capable of allowing me to submit to you? Because when women submit, I'm going to just use women, but this is acts of Black women. So when Black women submit, we give another type of aura, in my opinion, that is just such a beautiful birthing of not, let me do something for you. No, now I seek to understand you. I want to infiltrate your world, and I want to allow you to come and infiltrate mine. And if you thought you were healed, let me find out where you wasn't, so that we might be on a healing journey together. If you are broken, let's find out where we can fix it. What's going on with you? Oh, you look sad today. How may I make you happy? That is submission. But I know we'll probably get into this later, but it does go both ways. And the submission that we're speaking of has roots in the Bible. Ephesians talks about it. And that's why people say, I ain't getting submit. I mean, that's where it all comes from. Wives, submit to your husbands. But people never read down to verse 25, which gives the husbands instructions too about the wife. I mean, big ones, but just because the word submit is used on the wife part, people go, I ain't gotta do that, No, you gotta do something because really submissiveness is compromise, that's what it really is. Really, submissiveness is consideration. That's what submissiveness really comes down to. The negative part should be deleted when you're in a beautiful relationship. Now, if he busting you upside your head, no, that's not submissive. Do what I say. No, I'm not doing what you say. You just hit me. We about to fight. What are you talking about? No. But when you give me the beauty of respect that can be regurgitated and or reciprocated back unto you, you will have my submissiveness without request.
That's good. That's good. I love how you brought in the word of God in there, because if his word and his truth is not in the mix of it, you can't obtain submission, or you'll be so fearful of it and you won't understand what it's here to do if you just don't understand who God says that we are. I think that when we get clueless of that, we allow society to put on the definition of whatever they want to say. They're going to say, oh, we have to be strong, independent Black women. We're promoted to it. I mean, we have songs, INDEP. We have all these things just coaching us and promoting us to say, be independent, be independent. And society keeps putting this on the women. And it's actually putting a burden on us that we were not made out to carry. We are making the decisions of the household. We're doing all these things that there needs to be a little bit more role clarity on, but all this pressure to be that independent woman, to make all these decisions, to do all these things for your household, for your family, for your children, for your husband, all of this is put on our shoulders. And so we're women, we're strong, we're going to rise up to the occasion, but it's put on the false identity that we're gravitating to, and it's really making us crack and buckle and not reach the point of the healiness that Sister Shoni had talked about. So it's all about, yes, Black women do submit, but if God is not in that picture, we won't be able to get there. And it takes because if God is not in it, we're going to look at it as weakness. And it takes a mental strength to be able to reach that point of submission. You have to be mentally strong and not identify it with what we see in society, because you may see that, oh, you mean you can't do this, or you can't do that, or you can't take care of this, or you can't do that, or you're not making your own decisions when it comes to this. People will try to tell us that we're failing, or we're weak, or we're not powerful, or we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing in our household. But all these things is just bringing us confusion and steering us away of the role that God wants us to have in our house, in our marriage, in our family. There's a divine structure that we have to adhere to. And if we don't know what our identity is, we can't reach that point of submission, and that structure will not be. There's no foundation there. So there's nothing that we can stand on. So all this independent, strong Black women that we think that we're dancing to and doing all this stuff like that, it's just hype music, but there's no a sound foundation under it. There's no undertone. It's just blank. And so when we get to these big trials in our life as women, whether it's health, whether it's maybe the marriage failure, maybe all these things, we're going to sit there and scratch our head and say, well, wow, what happened? I thought I had it all together. No, you didn't. You had to reach the point of the weakness to let God steer you and make your identity within your household. And he would have coached you when and how to be submissive in the proper way. So that way it is all going to work in unison. So, yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. I love that. And then I think we have to keep in mind too that submission and submissiveness, that is within a marriage. It's not just out here dating. A lot of you hear that though. As a single woman, as a woman who's dating, I've heard that. I mean, most of us don't. Most of them better because I'm very clear. About what kind of woman I am. Yeah, the submissive is, relationship as far as dating, like courting, there's a plan, marriage. Yeah, I don't know, about that. We're going to have that conversation so we can have an understanding of it. And, but I believe that people use it loosely. And that is a request of some of these men who are dating women, but not trying to put a ring on it. So, putting that out there. That we can't do. I think that can be a request for someone to submit to you when you're not there. So,
I'm about to say something.
I wanted to just dive in a little bit about that because I am half in agreement and then I'm half not, because I do believe that if you just date me, you get zero submit. I don't have to do anything. We're learning each other, so leave me out of it. But at the point where we make any kind of commitment, I do believe that there is a submissiveness. And again, submissive just gets a bad rap for whatever reason, but I do believe that there's a certain submissiveness because, for example, if we are boyfriend and girlfriend and we've said that that's what we're going to be because we're working towards marriage, because I don't know how old y'all are out there in the audience, and I don't know how old y'all beautiful ladies are, but I'm just saying there's an age where we like, look, now we're not trying to just be boyfriend and girlfriend all year, all week, all month. What's going on? We need to be progressing towards something more serious. And for those who don't want to be married, that's fine. But I'm just saying, for those who do, you want to be getting to a goal. And so when that takes place, I don't know that you say I do and then submission starts zooming into the picture. So I think that it is when you have said we are making some type of solid commitment in the definition. I think you have to learn people's definition. Let me say that, because I don't think any of us are really going with Merriam-Webster's moment. You have to make your own definition within yourself what submission is, because there are different relationships. Like some people want to, be in entanglements. I don't want to be entangled. Don't entangle me in nothing, because I might not be able to get out. That seems like a trap. I don't want to be in that. But for those who have a straightforward me and you, and that's all it is, nobody else penetrating what we have type of relationship, I believe that submission is not doing your triggers because I know I can. That's submission, because you could do that. You could set somebody up because submission is like, I couldn't do that. I consider him. I like him too much. Why would I do that? I feel like that's submission. Submission is like, look, y'all, I wanted to go out with y'all tonight, but my boyfriend, when I came in the door, he had roses on the ground and he had dinner on the table, and there's no way that I could go with y'all on tonight, but y'all go dance and stuff, but I can't go with y'all. Not, oh, baby, I see y'all, this is nice, but I had planned to go with my girl. That's not submission. So I believe that there's a level of submission that kind of goes with the seriousness when you make a commitment. So not when you playing around and just keep on dating me and trying to get all in my pants. Not that part. I'm talking about when it's really just us before the marriage, because you need to see if you even want to be married to that. You don't know. So I think that there is a tiny bit of submission before you say I do.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about the courtship. Like we're just dating, dating around. I'm talking to you, you're talking to me, you're talking to someone else. We're just, casually dating. That's not courtship. Like there's no plans there to build together. So it's kind of like, well, yeah, I'm not, as a woman, as anybody, you should just be submitted to everyone that you come in contact with, or have a conversation with. But yes, if the plans, are being intentional. To be married, of course, definitely. Play how you practice. So.
I think you can even go a little further with it, and that you can really have a submissive or this type of hierarchy in almost any relationship, parent-child relationship, co-worker relationship. Really, it's really just talking about who's going to have the final say. If we have a disagreement, who has the final say? If I'm submissive, that means that, to my partner, then my partner is going to have the final say. And so it's just about the power dynamic. And so I think any relationship really can have this type of dominance dynamic. When I looked at the topic, animals, the animal kingdom, is real interesting what happens in the animal kingdom when you're talking about submission, and what they do. like wolves will roll over or show their belly or show their most vulnerable part of their body as an act of submission. So really you can have that dynamic and, outside of a marriage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the tricky thing with that, and not even just the tricky or just the unique thing with that, is you brought up the coworker relationship, which is a great example of, you have to submit your boss. Your boss has a final say. You're going to do what your boss has, instructed you to do. You may chime in and give your input, but at the end of the day, if they say left, then it's left. But with that, it's so much easier to submit or to yield to that because a paycheck is coming. So you don't want to mess up the flow of those checks coming in. So I'm gonna submit and do what I need to do because I need this employment. But sometimes with marriage, you don't see the fruit of that submissiveness as quick to adhere to it. It's almost just like you're willing to challenge it a little bit more. But if we opened our eyes to always see, whenever you're in a point to say, okay, this is an opportunity for me to submit. Let me look at this in a wide scale and look at all the fruit that will come after this point of submission. You know what? I am going to go ahead and take the back seat on this because God is instructing me to do so. And I know the fruit of this is going to be a happy home. The fruit of this is going to be unity. The fruit of this is going to be peace. The fruit of this is going to be me continuing to build and show my husband that I have trust and I have faith in him and his role in our marriage and in our household. And so it's like we're so motivated by quick things that we see, but when it comes to the marriage unity, it's almost like we have to put ourselves in a spiritual place to really just trying to see it, because so much things are happening in the house. You may not see it that quick and you'll be like, nope, I'm not doing that. Nope, that's wrong. That's this, that's this. And it's like, wait a minute, let me hold up and let me really look at the outcome of doing this or the outcome of doing this. And you'll probably most likely yield to that point of submission once you really try to open your eyes to see the benefit and the fruit that will come from it.
But is it okay? Is marriage really that important? If so, it's so hard to do versus your boss.
It's a strange question. I was trying to decipher what was being asked there. But I think sometimes with the comparison, I think what Dane was trying to say too, the comparison of like the boss and the coworker. I don't have to love my coworker I'm going to work. This your company, whatever. But when it comes to like relationship stuff, as somebody in the comments too said with me, we choosing to do this. I want to do this with you. Okay, let's do it. Okay, I'll get under on this, but look, I need you to get under on that. I really think it's a two-way street. Because like I said, it's always why people look at the first part, wives submit to your husband, but they don't look at the love your wife as Christ loved the church and love him with your whole body. And they don't look at the rest of the stuff. They don't look at the rest of the stuff when it comes to the man part. So I'm just a huge believer. I believe somebody said this. Christian said, are we hearing about conditional submissiveness? And I just think that I don't think it ever said that submissiveness was unconditional. Nobody ever said that. I think I think in another form when we talked about condition, and that some stuff you're not gonna be able to just cheat on me, and I'm like, well, I'm still submissive to you, baby, whatever you need. No, I ain't submitting you no more. It's broken. The respect and the love and the trust you had is broken. So I am just a big believer that it's just a little bit of difference when it comes to the different relationship parts, because little sprinkles of other stuff is involved. Love, commitment, XYZ. I got to come to your job because I need your check. But you also ain't gonna be talking to me like that. Yeah, who are you talking to? I'm gonna submit that part, but I ain't gonna be doing that. So I think that submissiveness, I just turned the corner a little bit, but yeah, submissiveness has to have condition. V, I'm passing it back to V.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that with it, as far as work, you say you're going in. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, when you look into work, you are receiving that pay, because this is not something like, I don't have to live with you. It's just like when you think about your exes, right? And maybe you have an ex you can be friends with, and you guys do really well as friends. But if I have to be with you and live in the same household, you would each other, because we feel like I don't want to. Maybe there's some things about you or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, I can agree with that. So if I don't agree with it, what sense will that make for me to like truly commit to you, and knowing that that's just kind of like how it is, how we're going to work together. We're going to work together, and selecting a good partner is someone that you already agree, with their morals, and their vision. You guys have a similar vision or a line. And when that's the case, then there's nothing to, disagree with it. It's easy because it's basically like, well, even if I wasn't with you, I'd be doing the same thing because we're in agreement, And so I think a lot of times people will select someone that they're select them for the wrong reason, And so it makes it very difficult to submit outside of
So I'm a people manager, so I manage people, and so I've been doing that many years. And so the way that I manage people now is not the way that I used to manage people. When I managed people before, it was I took control. I control the team, and I led with an iron fist. That didn't go over so well. You'll find that employees are going to rebel. They're going to call off. They're not going to work really hard for you, and you find that dynamic is not really the best. So when you think about it, the way that if you are a people manager or if you work for a boss, then you understand that. And so someone who is dominant, is not going to defer to the opinions of the team. They're not going to defer to, and so in a relationship, the dominant party, are they going to defer to the other person? Hey, honey, what do you think? What do you think we should do? They're probably not going to do that. And so there are different dynamics outside of just, dominant, submissive. And so I think that's why people have such a hard time, because that's not authentic to them. That doesn't feel natural to them. And it doesn't work for everyone. I may have a different opinion than some of the folks on the stage, but what I find, sometimes works, and it depends on who you're with, because that could change with one partner versus another partner, and with one team versus another team. What works for one may not work for all. And so other options could be, hey, we operate in our individual strengths. So where we're all dominant. When I manage people now, I try to make everyone dominant, where it's hard to tell who the boss is. That's a compliment to me. When my team is so strong, it's hard to tell that I'm the boss because we are all good. And so you might say, hey, I'm really good at finances, so I'll be dominant in that area, and you will submit to me when I say, hey, we're not going to spend our money on this. Now you're going to be submissive because I work in finance. So it may make more sense for me to be dominant in that area. And maybe my partner is, really good with parenting. They went to school for early childhood development. And so maybe when it comes to parenting decisions, like, hey, we're not going to let them have social media. And I'm like, oh, there's not a problem with social media, but I understand that's your forte. So you be dominant in that area. And therefore I understand and I submit to you and your decisions in that area. Mm-hmm. And so, or you just look at each other as essentially equals. And so I'm just saying there are other dynamics outside of that. And when you rope it back into the work example, you can see how other ways might actually work better. And that's maybe why it's so hard for people to do it at work and then come home and do it, because they're putting on a different face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's great what she said.
I agree with that 100%.
Definitely put on a different face.
Mm-hmm. I know, and I was gonna say, for me, when it comes to work, I am more, dominant. But when I come home, I don't want to be. And I'm learning that even when I'm dating outside of marriage, I still need to be able to turn that down some. You know what I mean? So it's not like, oh, I'm just going to let him do whatever. And I'm submissive. I'm like, yes, king, whatever. But I do need to let the man lead. You know what I mean? I need to see him lead. So that means that I need to take a step back. You know what I mean? If he's like, okay, babe, I need your help with this, then okay, right there, let's figure it out. You know what I mean? But sometimes I have to take a step back and not say anything. Just okay, well, if you need anything, I'll be here. And I think that's very important, even in the dating stage, because I don't want to commit to someone and he don't know how to lead. He doesn't know how to handle the things that we need to handle. I need to see whether or not I need to handle the children, and then he handles the finances. I need to see if it needs to be reversed, because that's possible too. You know what I mean? This world that we are living in right now is so unstable. But if you are building a connection with someone, you have to make sure that it's stable within you two. And that can be different. It's not cookie cutter for anybody. You know what I mean? Like marriage might not be the answer for everybody. You know what I mean? And that's just real where we are in life. You know what I mean? But you can let me know that. You know what I mean? So it's just like open and honest conversation. We have to have, and we have to be transparent with each other in the dating stage.
Very true. And then somebody mentioned in the audience about situational, situational, I mean, basically submissiveness, because there's different ways, different relationships have to kind of uh, so that's something to like check is a big part of submission.
Yes.
Without exactly. The biggest thing is the respect that you have for one another and trusting the person, because when you trust the person, it's very easy. If you say, if we're a team, let's say we're not together, but we're in a team, and I trust, your judgment. So I'm like, what are we going to do next? Like maybe we're in a competition. We have to lean on each other. If I trust you, it's going to be very easy for me to say, oh, okay. But if I doubt you, I'm going to be like, are you sure? Well, maybe we should think about it this way, and that's not going to get us anywhere. We're going to be going back and forth. But at the same time, with submission, it does go both ways, in my opinion, from what I have learned and experienced in different relationships. And that's intimate, romantic relationships, friendships, family dynamics, work situations, that type of thing. So can you lead right into the question? Are the women the only ones responsible for submitting? So, Dana, I would love for you to take this further. Our resident wife.
Yes. Women are not the only one that has a responsibility to submit. The man, the husband, should also submit first to God. And submitting to God and submitting to the Holy Spirit is going to allow him to understand how to lead the household. And so it'll make it more easy for us to be able to submit, because we're not just submitting to him, the man, we're submitting to the instructions he received from God, the instructions and the order he received from Holy Spirit on how to go about and do whatever it is whatever the situation is. And so women does not have the only responsibility. There's a mixture of responsibilities. A balancing act there, I guess you can say. Sister said it earlier. I love how she said there's going to be different dynamics for different situations. And I believe the seasons are going to constantly change. And so one season, God may be anointing or empowering the husband to lead in a certain aspect, and the wife should be more submissive when it comes to that. But there may be another season where there may be a little bit, more anointing or grace given in another area, and maybe the husband, should submit some thoughts or some ways. Not necessarily to, say that he's void in the equation, but it's just constantly showing that. I think it's just a form of love. It's a form of respect. It's a form of, I trust you. I know that, we're both in this together. I know that we're both trying to see God for our marriage, see God for our household. And if you hear something clearly from God, and God is saying, do X, do Y, do Z, then I understand and I trust and I love and I have faith in what you have heard. And so let's go ahead and do X, Y, and Z as you've heard. So I think that it's on both. I just think that understanding exactly the voice of God and hearing from him is both roles first priority. And when you get that clarity, you'll know exactly when to submit. You'll hear and say, okay, no, this is the time where you need to submit as a wife. This is something that I have been learning we're going to celebrate our 2-year anniversary in November. And I did not realize how hard it was for me to learn this. I was just thinking that, when I get married, I'm going to, be this and be that. But there were so many layers that I had to break down on what it really looked like for me, the challenges and the things that I grew up for me. And so you can think it's a quick thing and, oh, I just need to do this and I just need to do that. But we had to do hard work to carve off layers to really see, how do we both submit? What does that look like for you? What does that look like for me? How do we submit in unity to our Father? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, roll those sleeves up and let's do the digging to figure out how we can be successful in this for the glory of God. So long story short, no, it's not just a wife thing, but there's specific ways that we both have to go about just to make sure we're going, in the divine way that God has, instructed us to do.
Right. Here I come with my swimsuit on, diving in. Right with Dana. I'm just going to read what Ephesians say real fast so that the people could be on one accord. But I also want to say, when it's going to say submit a couple of times, but I feel like that definition is like submit what you got. And then, y'all talk about it, get approval on it, chat about it. It's not saying, okay, whatever you say, sir. Oh Lord, my husband said I got it. It ain't that. So let me just read it. And keep in mind, this was written in before before we would, okay, before we came to be. So just keep that in mind. We did this before a pandemic happened and all that. But let me just say, so it says, wives, submit to your own husbands, because some of y'all submit to other people's husbands. Anyway, that's another story. Wives, submit to your own husbands as you do to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Okay, then here go the next. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands also love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body just as Christ does the church. For we are all members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave and cleave, like they say, his father and mother, and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. Now, I read all that because people never read all that. The people love to just read the first sentence and then be like, hold up, read the rest. They gave a lot of the submission. The wife's part is three verses. The husband's part is about 8 of them. Okay, it's giving a lot to the leadership. So I want, it's always like, well, you better obey me. But it's not just about obeying, it's just saying, consider him. And all the stuff, don't be just trying to do stuff on your own. And all the stuff, make sure you include your husband. And husband, you got to care for that lady because she's trying to submit to you. You got to care for her like you care for your own body. Do you punch yourself in the face? No. So you need to care for her just like you care about you. You know what I'm saying? If you stub your toe, you're going to hold that toe. It's going to be a mess. You got to find a Band-Aid. You got to find ointment. You got to find some kind of solution. So just like you care for your body, men, husbands, then care for your wife, women. And so I just wanted to read all that and give a different perspective about submission and just say, just submitting your, a lot of my family has been married for X amount of years. But what I hear them keep on saying is, I will give my husband the idea just so he thinks it's his, but I'm really telling him what it really is. And that's how we run the show. Because it's like, what you think about putting some ice in that drink? You think that'd be a good idea? You know what? We should put ice in all the drinks. That was not his idea, but you gave him a submission. Now he's thinking, I told her about putting them ices in them drinks. No, you did not. But okay, sir, nice job. You know what I'm saying? So it's just about submitting your idea, making your request known. And then, if it's conducive for the household, let's roll with it. So it's not saying that there is inequality. It's just saying inclusion. Make sure that everybody has a piece. But I just wanted to read the foundational part for why people even say wives submit, because that don't come from the world, that part. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted people to know what was going on right there, and then my little sprinkle of take, and that we should make sure that when we have scripture, we kind of fit it into our 2021 world as well. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Shoni, did you want to speak to that?
I think I wanted to just piggyback on what she was saying about a woman planting seeds for the man to pick up. I mean, at the end of the day, the man is the head, the husband is the head, and the wife is the neck. Okay, but without the neck, where
Yeah.
you at? You know what I mean? But as women, we have a certain power within us that as you heal, and that is my main thing, women need to heal, especially Black women. As you heal, you'll realize that your approach doesn't have to be so harsh. It doesn't have to be so demanding, you know. And as you approach your partner in a softer way, he's gonna be like, well, dang, you know, like let me calm down. Let me feel, I feel safe with her now, you know. And I think it's really, really important for both parties, you know, to do the work on themselves, to look at the family dynamic also. Because I'm gonna go ahead and say that, because before you even get married and when you are interviewing, dating a person, think about that family dynamic. What's going on with the daddy and the mama? How is that relationship? You know, is it a healthy one? Because it's going to trickle down into that partner, you know. But that is not the end of the story. You know, if he is choosing to go a different path, you can guide him as a divine feminine in a certain way that he's going to be like, oh wow, you know, maybe how I was raised wasn't necessarily the right way. Like maybe I can change some things. So again, like, women, we have so much power, so much magic, and so much beauty, and so much strength within us. But until we take off that hard cape, and that cape of that strong woman, we ain't gonna use it. We can't use it to our ability. We can receive and get anything we want, anything. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But you have to know that. You have to know that, and you have to allow that masculine partner to provide it too. To provide it, you know. You need to be a little bit more patient sometimes. You know what I mean? That's you falling into your feminine, and that's going to teach him to be a little more patient, which he's going to fall into his feminine side, and it's just great. You know what I mean? Like, if you are doing one thing, that partner is going to see that you're doing that work if he is willing to, and he's going to mirror you. But keyword, if he's willing to, and if she's willing to.
Yeah. The cape that you spoke of,
Mhm.
all that is just a defense mechanism. And
Yep.
I know that firsthand, that I was wearing a cape with certain things in our marriage, thinking that, you know, I was doing right and I do everything that I was taught growing up. But it was all a defense mechanism of something on the other side that I was afraid of. And it made me put on this cape and keep this cape on for situations that I didn't need to have the cape on. I just needed to sit there and relax and let my husband take care of it. But I didn't see it as that, because all the years and decades before leading up to being united with him, this cape did me well. It served its purpose. It kept me safe. It provided for me. It did all these things because I had this exterior, this defense mechanism, but I had to learn to trust my husband with the vulnerable parts of me, to trust him with things that I didn't even know about myself, to trust him with things that I just compartmentalized and hid from mine, because I didn't want to deal with those emotions. I had to trust him to be able to just even see those areas. And with all of that journey, it allowed me, and it's still allowing me, because I'm not I'm not talking about submissiveness as if I'm just a master pro of it, because I will forever be a student when it comes to what God has designed us to be, and that is submissive. So I haven't masterminded, but what I have figured out now is that submissiveness is when we fail to submit, or when we don't submit, sometimes there's just a fear on the other side of it. And it's almost just asking yourself, what are you afraid of? Why can't you share in this, or why can't you yield in this way? And I had to realize that I was afraid of so many things, and the defense mechanism prevented me from submitting. But in the marriage, it's a whole different game. And to learn how to turn off all those things that I kept on 10 for so long. And it truly, really, really, really is hard work. But the beauty after it is amazing.
Okay. That's good. I kind of want to slide a question in there for what you said, just because I'm fully basically I discussed the last question. But what are some of our fears? What are some of your fears? I guess wrapped around. What would you say?
Oh, some of the fears that kept. Oh,
One of your fears, and I just would like to ask, to you, what are your fears? Because obviously we are a work in progress. Where someone submissive or, the thing we that position is to be together. What are the fears? Hindering at times. And we might talk about that. So you go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that one fear, I mean, there's a lot of fears, but a fear that we naturally have as people is that we can't, maybe sustain ourselves, or we don't have a control over things that we feel we need to have control over. And so, I mean, this is just a really small hypothetical. It's nothing huge, but if you've driven your car, and it's your car and you've driven it, and no one else has ever touched the steering wheel but you, that's your baby, that's your car, it's gotten you from point A to point B, back to A, no problems. You know your car, you put gas in your car, you take care of the maintenance on your car. You're in control of this vehicle that has done everything that you have needed to do. And to have someone come in and drive this vehicle, or for you to get in someone else's vehicle, you don't know if they kept up with that maintenance, you don't know if there's gas in the tank, it's all these unknowns. And so you enter into a place of fear, because you don't know if they're going to take care of it like you took care of it, or if they took care of their own like you took care of your own. So it's almost kind of like, because I can't control this, or I can't steer this, I don't know everything that's going on the other end. It's almost just like I'm afraid now because I don't have full knowledge. And I think that to me was one of my fears. I felt like I know me. I know what I can do. I know what I can, be. I know this and I know that. But trading that in to display trust and display faith into your husband allowed me to be in that passenger seat, and to be fine, to not be paranoid, to not feel like, oh my gosh, the car's going to wreck, or oh my gosh, doesn't know what he's doing. I'm just using a car as a hypothetical here. But it's just kind of like, it allows you to just rest and sit in that passenger seat and know, you know what? My husband's got it. He's going to get us from point A to point B, back to A. My husband's got the maintenance. My husband's got everything. And it's not saying that everything has to fall on him, but it's just saying that I'm able to just ride along and be at peace with certain decisions or certain things that he's either making, or we're both conjoining in and making together. It's just sometimes that fear of not being in control, or not knowing every single thing, is what keeps us from being submissive, because we feel like we have to know every single thing that's going on when we really don't. In certain, certain subjects.
I would say that definitely has been a fear of mine as well. Feeling like I needed to be in control. But then the question came up, why? Why do you feel like you need to be in control all the time? And I realized about myself, because I didn't want to be seen. And that's a problem. That's a problem. I don't want to be seen as vulnerable. I don't want to be seen as that little girl, that needed help and no one was there. But that is your partner's job if he is supposed to support you and uplift you as he should, to be there and to support you and to nurture you and to care for you in that way. But you have to allow yourself to be seen. You have to allow yourself to be vulnerable with them. You have to allow them to see you with no makeup. You have to allow them to see you when you're crying, when you're trying to figure out, what to do next, and for me, and like my current partner, when I started doing that, when I took the cape off and I just started being Shaniqua, not Shawnee, it was a totally different type of relationship, because then he felt comfortable being himself and being vulnerable. So I think a lot of us strong Black women, we are so conditioned to be in control, but we're so in control even of our emotions. So then our partner don't know what to do. They like, I don't know, like, I don't know how you feel today, and it's like, just let it all out. Like, it feels so much lighter to just be present in all vulnerability and in all uncertainty and all brokenness and all trying to figure this life out. It just feels so free, and it feels even more amazing to have somebody to be like, I know you don't have it figured out. I ain't got to figure it out either. We'll just figure it out together. You know what I mean? So I to answer that question, for me, it was definitely control. But then I had to figure out, why did I feel like I needed to be in control of my finances? Why did I feel like I need to be in control of my emotions? Why did I feel like I needed to be in control of where we're going? Like, why did I need that type of structure so badly? And it was because I was protecting myself from being hurt and from being seen. And that's not normal, and that's not natural and not healthy for us as women. So
That's not true. It really comes down to that. I'm going to answer the question. Just real quick, what what were some of the fears about those two? This is a great job of explaining this whole, topic of the different. But as far as the what were the fears that were there about basically the having so what did you say about
V, I think we're having a hard time hearing you again.
Like this is that work. I was going to say, can you hear me okay now?
that's a little bit better.
I was just going to say, I basically was asking questions to you. What the fear that children have had, to a partner.
It's still kind of hard to hear you. Can you type it in the chat for us?
Yeah, type it in the chat.
Sorry, V.
I know, we really want to hear you.
I know. But
While she types that in the chat, a comment that came up, I just wanted to, it was very funny but true. She said, someone said some of us don't even know how to submit to ourselves and just shut up when we need to shut up. I thought that was hilarious because it's true.
I just say it for Dana because she's trying to be kind. It say, no one want to shut the hell up, is what it say. Because people don't want to shut it on up. But I love, why I love that what was said? Because basically it's going back to Shani's point about the dating phase, and healing. But before you do that, there's a piece that needs to be done, which is learn yourself, know yourself. Dating to me is the learning ground for somebody else, for you to learn somebody else. But first, because people hate to be single. Lord, it's just the most awful thing to be single. No, I'm melting like the Wicked Witch of the West. But in that space, you get a chance to learn you. Like people will say, if I was in an abusive relationship, I would have left yesterday. He would have never been able to blah, blah, blah. But you've not been in an abusive relationship, so you have really no idea what you would do in that situation or scenario, because love is a powerful drug. that will make you, walk into somebody you didn't even know that you had the capability to be. So sometimes you have to learn what even triggers you, because triggers are so important. And you need to be able to articulate those triggers to another, but first admit the triggers to yourself. And that is just so important, first and foremost. And I think that's how you can matriculate accordingly. Yes, the Black Marvel, and we need to be able to hush sometimes because, like they always say, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Be quiet sometime and hear much. So that, because sometimes people, you know how they say they listen to respond, but not to understand. And so I think if we had that, even that submission, hold on, go ahead with your point and be quiet and then listen. That's submitting ourselves one to another. So I think it's just first and foremost, learn you before you attempt to learn someone else, because you are always going to be learning yourself, but learn the big core parts of you so that you might be able to articulate out to someone else.
Okay. Well, that's good. I was basically asking about the fears. I'm not for sure if you answered when I jumped off and kind of jumped back in. What I have learned is always a lifestyle. Okay. So the next question that I have, or the audience have, is what have you learned about the power of submission? Because there is a lot of power in it. And what I've learned from a good friend of mine, who's a pastor and therapist, all this good stuff, is he stated that when you submit, you put the responsibility on the other person. And so that's why it's actually the most powerful. You actually are kind of in control because you are submitting to that person and you're putting the responsibility on them. And he's like, babe, what we gonna do? So what about this? And it alleviates a lot of stress, and it's working together. And so for me, I have never really looked at it that way. I didn't really understand because I had all these different ideas and definitions of submission. So, the more that I gain knowledge on the term and the power of it, it makes it a little bit easier to do so. I'll go ahead and let Miss, because I didn't hear you earlier, but what have you learned about the power of submission or the dynamics?
I learned that it's a drawing cord. If you have it and it's good, and you can pull something out of someone, like birthing something out of someone is powerful. They used to have this little saying, behind every, good man is a good woman, but then people changed it to say beside every good man is a good woman. But drawing that from I'll take, my favorite classic couple who had cheating and all, but I use Beyonce and Jay-Z because they're 2 very big giant heads of industry, but they came together and after that they birthed some cool projects and went on tours that were super dynamic because they decided kind of to submit one to the other. Because without that, we wouldn't have got on the run too. We wouldn't have got Blue Ivy, Roommate Sir, none of it. But that was 2 big giant personalities that had to say, let me come together to see what we can do. So I think that it can pull things out of you or birth things that maybe you weren't capable of doing yourself. I think that's one piece of the power.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay.
Mute.
Yep. So I would say just that my final thought around like what I've learned is just really that you have to find what works for your relationship. You really do. Because conflict typically is going to happen when people are operating outside of their normal character. So if normally I'm the submissive one and I'm going to defer my will to someone else's, and I all of a sudden want to assert dominance, that's going to cause a disagreement to erupt. And so I think you really just have to figure out what works for you, and you need to be authentic to yourself, and whatever that is. And so whatever dynamic works for you, it just needs to come from a place of love and common respect and mutual respect for each other in order for that to be successful in your relationship. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to your style of negotiation with your partner. how you negotiate, how you compromise, and how you handle disagreements. So you just have to stay authentic to what feels good to you. And so that's my final thought on that, and what I've pretty much learned.
Yeah. I think the power of submission is beautiful. It's what you said, Yvonne. It's just it's so much less stressful when you can trust or just relax and know that that responsibility is taken care of by my husband, and he's going to value my insight, he's going to value my input, but at the end of the day, he is going to take on the load here, and so I don't have to stress, I don't have to worry, I don't have to do all these things to try to figure all this stuff out, because I'm not in this alone. And whenever I think about submission, I'm always thinking about yielding in the same line of thought. And when you physically picture or imagine the world yielding, I think of just, a car, you're driving and you see the yield sign, so you slow down and let, someone else come through. And so to me, it's almost representing of what I'm doing in my marriage. I'm slowing my gas down. I don't have to go fully through. I get to slow down and allow someone else to come in, and I can be guided. Once he comes, I can then follow behind. And it's just like the ability to just slow down my mind, slow down all the worry and all the stress. It's so relaxing that it's just like, sometimes it can get too relaxing, and you just want to sit your feet up and not do nothing. You're like, well, okay, wait a minute, there's balance when it comes to this. You can't do every single thing. I got to do something here too. But there's so much balance. It sets up a beautiful home. It sets up a beautiful household. The power of submission, like Clean said, it pulls things out of people. It burns. It encourages. It unifies. It allows us to worship God together. We're submitting. We're yielding to the voice of Holy Spirit and what He's directing us to do within our marriage. That's a form of worship. And so it's just like we're doing this and we're in this and we're on this journey. And it's something, again, that I hate that the negative connotation, going back to the first question, I hate that it's there, because once people get that out of their mind and see the beautiful power of it, it's limitless. Everything that we can do as a unit is limitless, because we're operating in a different power than just on ourselves.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Queen, did you answer that?
I said mine. It's on Shoni.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sean.
yeah. Okay. So what I would say is that it allows you to take your cape off. You don't have to do everything. You don't know everything. So, if you are able to have a partner that you can trust with certain things, why not? Like there's supposed to be balance. It's supposed to be a yin and a yang. We're supposed to work together. There should be a constant flow of us working together so that we can grow and help uplift each other. So, like, why carry a burden of everything just because you need to be in control? Why do that? Why? But the more self-evaluation processes you go through, you'll realize that there's some deeper issues within that's causing you to even want to be so in control and so restrictive of yourself, and the fact that you won't allow someone else in. And honestly, that's not how we were designed. We are designed to be together and to work together in harmony, whether that's marriage or not. We're supposed to work with other people. So
Agreed. And someone had in the comments a little while back, I think they were asking a question like, what makes a man worthy to be submitted to? And that's why I wanted to ask that question about fears, different, things, connected to that, of why it could be an issue or there could be some reservation. And what I see, there's fear there. That means lack of trust, And so what I believe is very important is that same thing with you getting femininity, feminine energy in that relationship, in that house, that's going to balance out the masculinity, is safety, having a safe space. And so if I feel safe with you, and that is a necessity, it is crucial, for a woman as far as things that you need, is to feel safe, secure, protected. And when I feel that way, safe, secure, protected, and I can trust you, then it is easy to submit. It just is. It's easy to submit to that person. It's easy for us to work, together and be able to compromise, as Kay, had mentioned. And this power dynamics, of course, it's moving, it's bouncing back and forth between us, because there's things that I have to offer and there's things that you have to offer. And if we have all those things where there's trust and safety within it, I create a safe space for you, as a man, for you to be able to be vulnerable with me and share the things when you just don't have it all together. Because there's a lot of men who say sometimes they don't have it together all the time. And that's a big, part of the pressure that's on them sometimes, that makes them be reserved and not know for sure if they want to be in a relationship or be married, because everything, they understand that once they get into that marriage, it's all on them, and so that's not so fun, but if we understand that we have this respect for each other, we trust each other, and we create this safe space, then we can submit to one another. You know what I mean? It makes it easier. And the power in that is just a harmonious, relationship, and just creating that dynamics that I don't have to doubt you, Mm-hmm. And because there's doubt. And I think that doubt comes from this idea when we get scared about submitting, it's because we're thinking about, submitting to the person, Yvonne, V. I don't know if I want to just submit to you. And that's the thing, is that we have to remove that, because really it's about submitting to God. And if I'm submitting to the God in you and you're submitting to the God in me, there's no question, there's no doubt. So that's my little tidbit of that question. But I would love, to give you all the opportunity to tell people where they can find you, if you offer any services or anything you want to let the people know about yourself. Here is the time. I really appreciate you guys coming on and giving your perspective to the people. And hopefully that gave some people clarity, and the people who, plan on watching this. So for everyone out there, make sure that you like and subscribe and share. And also go on over to Virtual First Dates YouTube and like, subscribe, and share. And so I'm going to go ahead and give it to you, Dana, if there's anything that you want to share about how people can get in contact with you, your devotionals, XYZ, please share, and then we'll just go in order.
No, mute, Dan.
Mute.
Thank you. I'm not on Instagram, really, but if you want to follow me on Facebook, Dana Criner, you can follow me. You'll just hear things about, like you said, devotionals or family or the word. And so be my friend there, and, we can message or talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Okay, going in order. You can follow me here, Queen Aftan, on all social media platforms. That's the handle, anywhere from Snapchat through Instagram. That's how you can follow me. My show, Queen You've Got Mail, MALE, comes back September 8th. We got a dynamic guest. That's a show where I talk to men about the things that ladies talk about, but we really should be asking men about. And we bring up all kind of cool topics, and men are just so much more honest sometimes than the ladies. And we get the comments, child, y'all got to come on over to that, because we are live when we go. So that's coming back. I welcome you to follow. I have lots of events coming up. And again, I'm very grateful to be on this platform. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And Shoni.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me on the show, V. It really was an interesting conversation. I truly enjoyed discussing it with all of you ladies. But everybody can reach out to me everywhere. I am Shoni on Instagram, everywhere. I also have, I'm the founder of Beauty and Soul Lifestyle, and we talk about the B side of life, love, and business. I have a podcast that I host as well. And I'm actually a master Reiki practitioner. So I actually know how to move energy throughout people's body and clear those blockages that are forcing people to mess up their relationships. So that's something that I do more on the beauty and soul side. I'm also a singer, songwriter. So I put that same energy into my music as well. But you can follow me everywhere. I am Shoni, and thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And last but not least, intuitive one, Miss K.
Yes. Well, thank you, V, for having me. This has been wonderful. Nice to meet all you ladies. Yes, I'm intuitive1333 on Instagram, intuitive1333 @gmail.com. Also, intuitive1333 on Clubhouse. So if you need to find me, you can slide in my DMs there. I am a spiritual intuitive. So what I do is I offer, I use my divinely appointed gifts, and I provide messages from your angels and your spirit guides. I do study astrology as well as numerology, and do provide some clarity around dreams and relationship advice, all sorts of things. So if someone needs divine clarity about a situation, I do use my divinely appointed gifts to help do that. So you're welcome to check out my page to learn a little bit more. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, ladies. It's been a blast, and I appreciate you so much. And to the audience, I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of Ask the Black Woman. And so remember to like and subscribe and share. Everyone have a great night.
All right, bye.
Bye, Queen.